Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. That's right. Welcome to another episode of Comment Foolery Exposed. So I was out getting my iced latte this afternoon and I came across this atrocity. That's right. Dating coach says dark-skinned women have it harder when dating because of colorism. Let's go ahead and take a listen.
Imlana said, do you think it's harder to date for dark-skinned women? I don't think, I know, and the research says that.
Pause. Has anyone noticed how a lot of unambiguous black women are much more vulnerable to dating coaches and image consultants and lifestyle coaches? Have you ever noticed how dependent and reliant they are on these people's opinions? Not to mention the fact that Anwar is a black man. So, of course, whatever the almighty, the alpha and the omega black male dating coach says, first it was Kevin Samuels, now apparently it's this guy Anwar, whatever the almighty male says, that is fact. And then he says, oh, well, yeah, it is harder because the research says so. Okay, so are you saying that dark-skinned women are supposed to live their lives based off of what research says? Because if I'm not mistaken, there used to be research about how black people are inferior to white people, about how European people were superior in every way. So it's interesting how you've got these people who are supposed to be coaching you. They're supposed to be empowering women. But somehow they end up letting this talking point creep in that, oh, by the way, I just wanted to announce that no one likes you. Oh, yeah, dark-skinned women, I just wanted to make a YouTube video so I could remind you that everyone hates you and that you're at the bottom and that nobody's going to choose you for marriage. Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that. So you should open your options. Oh, wait, but you actually don't have any options because statistics show that you're the last to get married. Oh, but have a good day. I hope you feel empowered now. So what they'll do is they will cherry pick certain statistics. They're using the same rhetoric that the red pill uses. A lot of unambiguous black women are actually red pill and they don't realize it. A lot of them have internalized misogyny. I mean, all of that comes from being male-centered. But they're using these red pill talking points of you're the last to be chosen, you're the last to get married because of your dark skin. And then when they say, oh, this is what research shows, have you ever noticed that barely any of them can pull up the actual study and what this actual research is? Because if there was a study on colorism and they did like a profile on people who got married, I would love to see who they were asking, why did you marry this person? I would love to see those studies. I would love to see what they qualify as light skin. Like, do they have a paper bag test? Are they saying you have to be a certain foundation shade to be considered light skin? Where are all of these researchers? And why should anyone who's dark skinned live their life based off of a statistic? I thought that as people of color, I thought that our whole purpose was to like break the statistics, right? So why are you reinforcing basically a negative statistic? Because you're using this talking point towards dark-skinned women who probably want to get married, because a lot of these women have very male-centered mindsets, very male-centered channels. So you're telling these women that basically they don't have a lot of options. So you're reinforcing this scarcity mindset. Oh, hey, just so you know, you're the last to get chosen. So after he's already ran through all the white girls, after he's already ran through the Latinas and the light-skinned women, then he's going to come after you. So they're reinforcing this subconscious belief that the darker you are, the harder you have to work in order to get male attention, which is very low value. We already know that most men will fuck anything with a hole. So it's like, okay, instead of telling them things like, hey, maybe you should decenter men and actually have some self-esteem. No, they want to tell you, hey, the ones that you want, they don't want you. Black men don't like you. White men don't like you statistically. You're the last to get chosen. And so it's teaching women who have a darker skin tone that they have to work twice as hard to get half as much. What culture do you know of that believes in that talking point? Where did that come from? Oh, that's right. It came from the monocultural black community. So do you see how being too monocultural can actually cause you to have inferiority complexes? This is actually true for like any racial background. But in this case, this is one of the number one inferiority complexes I see amongst dark-skinned women when it comes to like self-worth, when it comes to interacting with the opposite sex. This is one of their main inferiority complexes, and it's coming from their own people. And then you've got unambiguous black women putting black men on a pedestal. It's so hilarious because they're looking to a non-straight They're looking to an LGBT, unambiguous black man to teach them how to date multiculturally. Have you ever noticed that? And by the way, this also aligns with my talking point that most of them want to date us or create us. So what they're doing is they're saying, hey, dark-skinned black men are colorists, so let me go for the MLS men. Let me go for mixed race men. Let me go for light-skinned men. Okay, so they're going after men who are a part of our phenotype group. So by the way, that's proof that they don't actually believe that we are just regular black, like what they try to say to the Exoticals. Oh, you guys are just regular black people. There's nothing special about you. You're not even cute. You're mediocre. Okay, well, you've got an entire community of unambiguous women chasing after these MLS men and non-black men. And it's like, okay, people have so much crap to talk about mixed or light-skinned people, but then you're going after the lightest people in the world, white people. But let's continue.
It is more difficult.
Also, it's more difficult to do what? To go on a date, to have sex, to get married, to be kissed. Like, what aspect of dating and marriage is specifically more difficult based on your skin tone? Notice how they can never go into actual detail, so it's not actually helping their audience. All they're telling them is, hey, people don't like you, but I don't know why. They just don't like your skin tone. But then they don't tell you like how to tell if that person is colorist, or how to bypass that, how to make sure that the person actually prefers dark skin. And that's another thing as well. They're telling dark skinned people that like you're not preferred, and then they will say, oh, if you want to make sure he's not colorist, you got to make sure that he's fucked at least several other dark-skinned black women before you. You got to make sure that he's crushing on other dark-skinned black women. You got to make sure that his celebrity crush is a dark-skinned black woman. And it's like, wait a minute, I thought you guys said you don't like being fetishized. I thought that you don't like being a dark-skinned placeholder. And so my question is, how many dark-skinned bodies does a man have to have in order to prove that he's not colorist? So they're also subconsciously promoting man sharing, and they don't realize it. What they're saying is the only way you'll know that he's not colorist is if he's ran through a whole bunch of dark-skinned black women before you. You don't want to be the first dark-skinned black woman because, of course, that means that he's just experimenting. You're his dark-skinned experiment. You're his dark-skinned token. But then on the other hand, if he has been with a lot of dark-skinned black women, then that means he's not colorist. But then you're running into the problem that this man is literally just pumping and dumping. Aren't they against pumping and dumping? So they're saying basically you should only go for a man who's pumped and dumped several dark-skinned black women before you. And that's the only way you'll know that he's not colorist. So do you see how they're actually basing colorism on sexual desirability? That's why I said it's never about social justice. It's always about social status. The only way to qualify a non-black man as not being colorist is if he has had sex or had a romantic relationship with somebody else who's dark-skinned.
And if you're a darker skinned woman and your friends are telling you, no, girl, you got this. No, girl, it's more difficult. It's harder. It means it may take a little bit longer.
Pause. Notice how he just told you what makes it more difficult. He said it may take a little bit longer. So that's the difficulty? So there's something wrong if it takes a little bit longer, and then he doesn't qualify an exact amount of time. On the screen, it says how to get engaged in 1 year. So I'm just assuming that 1 year is what he thinks is the correct amount of time. So he's basically saying, he's implying that if it takes longer than a year for you to get engaged, he's colorist. If it takes longer than a year for you guys to put a ring on it, then, it's because you're dark skinned. So that's why you couldn't get engaged in a year. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. That's what makes it more difficult. The longer it takes, the more difficult it is. So now you're saying that the standard is to have a man that wants to hurry up and marry you, but then that opens up dark-skinned women to more narcissists. Because now you're saying, no, you want a man who comes in automatically. He's basically like in love with you from day one. He like worships you. He puts you on a pedestal. He's already ran through a lot of dark-skinned black women. Oh, and by the way, what makes it difficult is that it takes longer. So he needs to try to hurry up and marry you within 1 year of meeting you. You guys need to be engaged. So do you see how that actually opens you up to more narcissists or codependent men who are trying to hurry up and, marry you within the year so that they can potentially go 50-50? Remember the actual stats. Around 87% of men make less than 100K. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was around 99% of men that make less than 500K or less than $1 million. We talked about it in the Patreon. Please be sure to join the Patreon if you're interested in some of my decentered dating content.
It also means that your boundaries are going to have to be too legit to quit.
Okay, wait a minute. That doesn't even make sense. Because every woman should have boundaries regardless of their color, not just dark skinned women. And also, what special boundaries do dark skinned women need to have that other women shouldn't have? Because I thought that if somebody's a colorist, nobody should be dating a colorist. I don't want to date a colorist. White women shouldn't want to date colorists. So what do you mean their boundaries have to be too legit to quit? That sounds like he's just kind of putting in filler words there. So he doesn't tell what the exact boundary needs to be that apparently only dark-skinned people have to have. So do you see the internalized inferiority complex coming out? Because they're implying that, oh, as a dark-skinned woman, you have it harder, so basically you're fucked. Basically, you're going to have a worse experience than everyone else simply because of your skin complexion. So no smoke for the men. Has nothing to do with the men. No problems with them. No advice geared towards them. Nothing that's focused on helping other people to overcome their internalized biases. Oh no, dark-skinned women, it's on you to create special boundaries that other types of women don't need to have because, of course it's easier. But then he doesn't specify what these boundaries are. Because last time I checked, nobody should be trying to get with somebody who has internalized inferiority complexes. But let's continue.
Because a lot of these men will try you. Right? I think that the marriage rate for darker skinned women are in the teens.
Okay, so now he's exposing himself again. He's saying a lot of these men will try you if you're dark skinned. So if you're light skinned, you're good, basically. If you're white or if you're some other phenotype, they're not going to try you in the same way as they would try these lowly dark-skinned black women. So he's implying that dark-skinned black women are essentially scraping up the crumbs and leftovers of the dating market. This is literally what this dating coach is implying here. Oh, dark-skinned women, your boundaries have to be harder because the men are really going to try you. So is this supposed to, how are they supposed to feel? That's my question. For all the black empowerment YouTubers, for all of the black empowerment dating coaches, my question is, what emotion are you trying to invoke in your dark-skinned audience? Because if this is what I'm being told, like if somebody were to tell me, oh, basically I'm fucked because of my skin tone, everybody hates me, and then he says, oh, your marriage rates are in the teens, is that bad? Because if anything, couldn't that mean that dark-skinned women have good boundaries then, if they're not marrying at the same rates? Because let's remember the actual marriage stats. Remember, majority of men make less than 100K, majority of men definitely make less than 500K and less than $1 million. And so if dark-skinned women are getting married at lower rates, how is that a failure? Do you see what I mean when I say they're very male-centered? So basically, if less of your people group gets married, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong if you're single and dark-skinned. There's something wrong with you. And then remember, notice how they use us as their standard of dating. So this aligns with my other talking point that I've said before. I believe MLS people, we are often used as the standard of dating in the black community, the standard of living, and the standard of beauty. So this man is starting his sentence by saying, oh yeah, your marriage rates are in the teens. So, that's bad, basically. He's implying that that's bad. He's implying that, we need to get that number up. 90% of you guys are unmarried. So first he says you need to have boundaries. Then he says the marriage rate is essentially too low. And it's like, wait a minute, wouldn't that be good if darker skinned women are starting to decenter men, or if they're choosing to not get into these 50-50 relationships? Like, why is that bad? And also, why is the onus on the woman? Like, you need to do what you need to do so you can get this man to put a ring on it within a year.
If you're a lighter skinned woman, it's in the 40th, 50th percentile, similar to the white girls and lighter skinned Latina girls.
Boom. Another psychological jackpot right there. He just classified light-skinned black women in the same category as white and Latino women when it comes to dating and marriage and desirability. This whole conversation that this man is having, this is a desirability conversation. So he's telling his majority black, dark-skinned audience, hey, the light-skinned black women, your counterparts, the ones that are still just black, the regulars, the regular women that are not exoticals, they're black and they're just light-skinned. Oh yeah, those women's marriage rates are higher than yours. They're more than double yours. They're in the 40s and 50s. They're at the same level as these white women and these Latina women. So do you see that underlying talking point coming through again? You're at the bottom. You're being left behind. So he's doing this thing where it's creating a sense of urgency in these dark skinned black women. And of course, he's a dating coach, so that's how he makes his money. So obviously, that's almost like a sales tactic. And I'm not saying he's even doing it on purpose. I think that's just how people make their living. But it's like it's creating this sense of urgency, like, oh, they're getting married at double the rate you are, and apparently that makes lighter skinned women and non-black women somehow better off or somehow more marriageable. So he's implying these men, they're picking all the other women over you. So basically, you're on the clearance rack of the marriage market. You're on the clearance rack. So you need to hire me so that I can teach you how to get off that clearance rack. So he's essentially implying that all of us are the prize and that dark-skinned black women are like leftovers.
If you're medium skin tone, then you're in the high 20s.
And then he says if you're in the medium range, you're in the high 20s. First of all, what the fuck is a medium skin tone? What exact foundation shades? Name a color. Because remember, they just talked about light-skinned women. What color is light skin? They never say. What color is medium skin? And also, please pull up all of these stats and all of these research projects. And I'm not saying that there hasn't been research on this stuff. I think there has been. I'm not saying that it doesn't have merit. But I am saying that they love to cherry pick kind of the most bleak and most negative types of talking points when it comes to dark-skinned women, because they want dark-skinned women in particular to be more codependent. And I'm talking about this because I'm so glad that dark-skinned exoticals are not taking on this mindset. And if you are taking on this mindset, please, by all means, unsubscribe from this channel. But they're teaching dark-skinned women to have this inferiority complex so that those women become more codependent on advice content creators. And like I said, I don't think they're doing it on purpose, but I do think it's a very interesting cultural phenomenon because I have not seen any other group of women, black, white, Asian, nothing. I have not seen any other group of women more obsessed with how to catch a man, how to level up, how to do your nails and toes and be feminine enough for a man. I have never seen anyone put people on this high of a pedestal on the internet other than dark-skinned black women.
Early 30s. I want to be honest with you. I hate that people are like, there's no difference.
My question is, why do these differences matter? Because when it comes to something like marriage, for those who are that male-centered, like, oh my God, my life is over if I don't get married. Okay, if you're that obsessed with marriage, the differences don't actually matter, right? Because you're only picking one guy. Whatever guy you're with, he's going to be with you. So what's the point of comparing yourself to other random women that you don't know, random women that you will never be, that you will never look like? That is my question, is what is the point of using light-skinned women and non-black women as the benchmark or the standard of dating? So it's not that people are saying, the difference is, there is no difference. No, I think there is a difference with every single human being, but it's like, why do these differences even matter? Why compare yourself to other people? Like, what's the point of that? What do you have to gain from comparing yourself to others and then trying to essentially catch up? Because he is using actual numbers and measurements. He's saying the light-skinned women are at 40%, medium skin tone is 20%, dark skins are in the teens. Okay, so he's using actual measurable numbers. So what's the point of using these numbers, giving dark-skinned women the lowest number, and then, basically implying that they need to catch up? How does that help anybody? How does that make a woman more ready to date? How does that make her more equipped in the dating world? Because last time I checked, it doesn't. And also, for those of you who are so obsessed and you want to say that the Exotical channels are trying to scare women into dating black men, actually, no, this is a decentering men channel. I will never tell you what man to date. But for those of you who are saying things like, oh, black women are leveling up and they're dating white men, so they're leveling up, and that's why Exoticals are mad. First of all, I don't view proximity to whiteness as a level up. Okay, so that's number one. And then number two, if that were really the case, that dark-skinned women are leveling up and they're doing so much better in hypergamy and all that, then why have the statistics not changed? Have the statistics changed ever since the divestment movement came about? Ever since the divesting and swirling and all that came about, did those statistics change, or do they look exactly the same?
There is a difference. And I think it sucks, but there's a difference. But I think it's important for you, if you're a darker skinned woman, to understand this, and hopefully this inspires you to expand or widen your net.
Okay, so lower your standards or chase after the small percentage of non-black men who do prefer dark-skinned black women. So you're telling me that if dark-skinned black men don't prefer dark-skinned women, I'm supposed to believe that suddenly non-black men do prefer dark-skinned black women with 4C hair and broad features? So once again, they're giving dark-skinned women this illusion of options. They're saying, hey, just stop dating black men, like expand your options to include white men and stuff. And the average non-black man of any race obviously is not preferring somebody outside of his race. And that's just, since we're talking about statistics, I can actually pull it up on the screen. As a matter of fact, 1 second, let me pull it up. Okay, so I just typed it into ChatGPT. Just a tip for Exotical content creators, if you're using ChatGPT, I do think it's best if you show the prompt to your audience just so they can make sure that you're not trying to like manipulate it or whatever. But I said, what percentage of non-black men prefer dark-skinned black women with 4C hair and broad features, if any? Is that something researchers even feel is relevant enough to study? So ChatGPT is over here telling me that basically there's not even enough of a control group. Like there's not even enough of a population that even prefers unambiguous dark-skinned black women specifically to where they feel like it's relevant enough to study. They have done research on colorism, and according to colorism studies, they're saying that non-black men are actually the least likely to express interest in black women compared to other racial groups. And then they say within that, lighter-skinned black women get more matches or messages. Okay, so you're telling me that the stats are the same then amongst both black and non-black men. So that this is what the dating coaches are not saying. They're saying that, hey, black dark-skinned men don't prefer you, but then they're not telling their audience, wait a minute, white and non-black men don't prefer you either, according to these stats. And this is why I tell my audience to never live your life based off of stats, because first of all, there is no statistic that studies every single human being in the whole world. This is a big world. So just because one group of researchers has a certain opinion, that doesn't reflect everybody. But since they wanted to bring up stats like an idiot, let's bring up the stats on interracial dating. So it literally says on here that you're even less preferred by non-black men. But the dating coaches aren't saying that. They're basically implying that, you know, you're going to get this magical, mythical, ethereal, handsome white man. You know, you're going to get like this Clark Kent type of white man. You're going to get Orlando Bloom. You're going to get, I don't know, whatever other guys they have a crush on. Ryan Gosling is just going to walk into your job and he's going to bring you roses. But they're not telling you the stats on how few non-black men actually prefer them. This is why I think it's a very slippery slope and a horrible argument that a lot of unambiguous black women make when they say, oh, well, I get approached by white men or I get approached by XYZ other race of men. Okay, but those men, guess what? You and the rest of the unambiguous population are going to be fighting over this 2% of men who date interracially. You know, you're going to be fighting over this group of men. And that's where you get these white men who just run through a whole bunch of black women. That's where you get these Cohen Nanics from. I've done a video on him a while back. That's where you get the Cohen Nanics from. That's where you get these white men from who just, you know, maybe they're incels in their community or they're essentially dusties. And they're narcs because you got men telling you, oh, he should want to hurry up and marry you pretty quick. You know, he should tell you that you're his preference and all that. So you're teaching these white men actually, because white men watch this content as well. The internet is not censored. So white men could be watching this content and thinking, okay, great. A lot of dark-skinned black women feel rejected within their own group. Okay, cool. I will go to them for my external validation then. I will use them as my emotional cheerleaders. I will use them so I can just sleep around.
That's why I'm always saying this, right? Because a lot of the darker skinned women, they're like, oh my God, the only guys that are going to be checking for me are black guys. Girl, do you know how much colorism, texturism black guys have?
And I agree that black men in general are colorist, texturist, and featurist, but where do you think that colorism, texturism, and featurism stemmed from? Because if you're saying that black men are colorists, don't you think that the creators of colorism, texturism, featurism, slavery, and colonization, don't you think they would culturally be even more colorist, texturist, and futurist? So you're telling your audience that, hey, black people are like, they're racist, essentially. They're anti-black. So you should go to white supremacist environment. Who do you think is more likely to be a white supremacist? A black person or an actual white person who's been raised in white culture?
Yuck. Girl, if you are dark, that means you gotta get to the light.
Okay, so the darker you are, the lighter your partner needs to be. What culture do you know of who has that talking point? Oh, you're already too black. You don't need to date somebody black. So he's actually stereotyping the black community, saying, the black community is anti-black. So, the darker you are, the whiter your spouse needs to be. So he's coming to the same conclusion of you should wash out your blackness or get out of black culture ASAP, but he's just doing it in a different way. He's justifying it by saying, we're divesting because of colorism, texturism, and featureism. And so it's okay for us to be anti-black because, we are victims of the isms. So let's try to get somebody as light as possible, as white as possible, and that's going to be the solution to colorism. All you have to do is just go to the white community, and the colorism is solved. Just go fuck a white man. Colorism is solved now.
Like, you want pale. The palest guys like the darkest women.
False. And here is the screenshot to prove it. Also, with him saying the palest men like the darkest women, why is that historically inaccurate then? What he's saying is both historically and statistically inaccurate. If the palest men, aka white men, prefer the darkest women, then why is Hollywood colorist, texturist, and featurist? Why is the music industry colorist, texturist, and featurist? Why is the fashion industry colorist, texturist, and featurist? Why is ChatGPT telling me that they're the least likely to express interest in black women? So what he's saying is a straight up lie. That's a complete lie at this point. So he's feeding this fantasy that, the almighty white man, the almighty Fabio is going to come and save you from the isms. But if you actually go out into the real world, that woman's experiences don't align with what he's saying.
Welcome back to my channel, Mother Suckers. Hey, it's your girl, I am Eloho. I wanted to bring it here on my channel because we do have a majority black woman audience here, and he gives dating advice primarily to us. Now, I've been married for 3 years now, so I've been out of the dating pool for a little bit.
So you've got YouTuber I am Aloho, who's an unambiguous dark-skinned black woman, kind of reacting to his talking points and essentially agreeing with him. But notice how she starts off. Before she even begins talking, she says, wait a minute, I'm actually married, so I'm off the market. So do you see how she's qualifying herself as an authority in the dating sphere by saying, I'm not like the other blacks. I'm not like the other dark-skinned women because I'm married. So this whole stat or this whole talking point of dark-skinned black women are the last to get chosen, I don't fall into that category. I am Aloho because I'm married to a Nigerian man, if I'm not mistaken, or some sort of black man. She's married to an unambiguous black man. But I want to point that out because a lot of black content creators, black empowerment creators, they qualify themselves by differentiating themselves from their own audience. So it's like they want to separate themselves like, hey, I'm not like you guys. I'm not like my black female subscribers. I can't relate to you guys, but I want you to listen to me. So do you see how this is actually a bad social climbing move on behalf of unambiguous black women? Because they're constantly listening to voices that can't even relate to their struggles. They're listening to content creators that aren't relatable to them. And so that's why when they go out in the real world and they fail at doing their little dating stuff, whatever they're trying to do, hypergamy, sprinkle, whatever they're doing, part of it is because they're watching content creators that they don't relate to. They don't look like Shira 7. They don't have the same experience. They don't date like I am Aloho. I am Aloho is with an unambiguous black man, but you got this Anwar guy saying you should basically not date unambiguous black men if you're super dark. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of them struggle so much socially. It's because they're relying on content creators that don't have the same experiences as them. Maybe those creators have different privileges than them or different cultural backgrounds than them. That's another thing as well. They're following creators where they can't relate to their culture, they can't relate to their body weight, they can't relate to their face. Maybe they don't have pretty privilege. The majority of them, according to their own talking points, do not have pretty privilege. So I just wanted to point that out. That's the first thing I Am Aloho said is, hey, I just want to announce I'm not like you guys. You know, I'm not like the rest of you guys, my subscribers, because I'm actually married. So I broke this statistic.
And so I went into the comment section just to see what other women had to say. Someone said, as a dark-skinned woman with a mixed sister, I can 100% attest to this. The colorism is palpable.
First of all, if you're a dark-skinned, unambiguous woman with a mixed-race sister, that means you guys have a separate parent, which makes them your half-sibling. But notice how they're very quick to claim us as their sisters. They're very quick to say, oh, well, my sister's light-skinned, my stepmom, my daughter's sister's cousin's baby daddy, they're light-skinned. So they're quick to qualify themselves by placing themselves in proximity to us. But then they get mad when we place ourselves in proximity to blackness. They say that, you know, we're cosplaying or we're jumping in and out of blackness or we're only here because we get our pedestal. But then when we are not around and they're talking amongst themselves, they're doing the same thing. They're jumping to have proximity to a mixed race person, and then they're using their mixed race sibling. They're using random mixed race family members as a way to qualify themselves as authorities on the mixed race experience. Do you see what I mean when I say we are their standard of dating? We're their standard of living? So she's living vicariously through her mixed sister. She's saying, oh yeah, my sister is mixed and this was her experience. And it's like, you don't actually know every aspect of her experience because you're not her. So why are you speaking on behalf of random mixed race people?
I was the ugly dark-skinned sister.
Then she says she's the ugly dark-skinned sister. According to who? Who called you ugly? And what does that have to do with your mixed race sister? Who said that you were ugly? What was their name? Who called you that? Who said that quote to you? Oh, you're the ugly dark-skinned sister. What was the name of the colorist person who said that to you? Because did someone actually say that, or is that just how you felt in comparison to your mixed sister? Because I don't see what your random mixed race sister has to do with you feeling like the ugly dark-skinned sister, unless, of course, you're just projecting your inferiority complex onto your mixed race sister. Because notice how she doesn't say, hey, my mixed sister said that I was ugly, or, you know, this black man said I was the ugly dark-skinned. She doesn't tell you guys who this invisible colorist is. All she's saying is I was the ugly dark-skinned sister. Okay, is that just how you felt, or what?
And now it's either light-skinned mixed men, Hispanic men, or white men who break their necks trying to talk to me.
Pause. So now she said I was the ugly sister, and now pretty much anyone non-black tries to talk to me. So she's basically saying that I leveled up. I essentially surpassed my mixed race sister because now men of her counterparts, you know, her counterparts, light-skinned mixed men, they're looking at me and talking to me. By the way, someone looking at you and talking to you is not the same as marriage. Because remember, that's what the conversation was about. It was about marriage statistics. The stats are still the same. So I don't care whether somebody's talking to you. Just because somebody says, hey, oh, you're a chocolate queen or whatever, that's not the same as somebody actually marrying you. So I find it interesting that you got a random girl comparing herself to her random mixed race sister, which is, it's not her sister, it's really her half sibling. And I'm not saying you can't call them your sister or brother, but it's like she's comparing herself randomly in the comment section to her mixed race sister. And then she says, now the light-skinned men are looking at me. Now white men are looking at me. So do you see their internalized male-centeredness? Their value comes from how many white men look at them, how many mixed men look at them. So isn't it hilarious how they call Exoticals colorists? They call everybody else a colorist, except for themselves, but then they qualify their desirability based on how many non-black men want to fuck them.
Sucks because I love a dark-skinned, chocolate black man. I've literally had to change my preference just so I could love what loves me back.
Oh, so you mean to tell me that your preference is actually a trauma response after feeling rejected or like you are the leftovers amongst unambiguous black men? So you're telling me that you decentered black men because they decentered you? Does that talking point sound familiar? Does that level of projection sound familiar? So it's interesting how people talk against decentering men. They talk against the exotical space, but then you've got dark-skinned black women decentering black men because the black men have decentered them from their dating standards, and so now they're chasing after men of our phenotype or anything non-black. So like I said, a lot of people, most of them want to date us or create us. You either want to date a man of my phenotype, or you want to create a child of my phenotype, or you want to date someone with the same non-black ancestry that runs through my veins.
Someone else says, I date who desires me. Black men don't desire dark-skinned black women. Non-black men do.
Okay, but desiring someone is not the same as preferring them. It's not the same as marrying them. So it's funny how they love bringing up statistics when it comes to black men, for example, or light-skinned women. But they don't bring up the statistics on non-black men. And then she's saying, basically, non-black men desire me, so that's who I'm going to desire. If your standards couldn't be lower, I mean, oh my God. So you got women admitting, oh, actually, I originally had XYZ as my dating standard, but now I have changed my dating standard because the man that I wanted didn't want me. So instead of decentering men, I'm going to continue my suffering by not only dealing with the dustiness of men today, but now I'm going to deal with it from a man who was never my original preference anyway. So I already settled in one area. I already tried to change my sexual desirability. You know, you got people trying to change their sexual desires. So they're saying, I sexually desired black men, or I romantically desired black men, but they didn't like me, and it must be because of colorism. But notice how none of them can actually name stories of, hey, I can't date you, or I'm breaking up with you because you're dark-skinned. And it's like, first of all, why would you desire colorists? But okay, so let's pretend that she's doing this as an act of empowerment. So my way of empowering myself as a dark-skinned black woman is to go and date as many non-black men as possible. So the way I feel desired is by how many non-black men like me. That's how I feel desired. Do you see how their whole conversation is revolving around who are the white men choosing? This is why I say a lot of them are very white male-centered or very non-black male-centered. So it's hilarious how they'll try to call mixed race people white supremacists. They'll be like, oh, you hate your blackness, you hate your black side. And it's like, sis, you hate your black side. You don't like your black culture. You don't like the lifestyle that your blackness has given you. According to a lot of you guys' own talking points, you don't even like your hair, your features, etc. And then you have the audacity to say that random mixed race people dislike our blackness.
Another person said, I'm a dark-skinned woman and I have never met a man that didn't want to date me.
Lies. That sounds like magical thinking. That sounds like a coping mechanism. That sounds like a form of psychosis. You've never in your life met a man that did not want to date you. So when you were underage, every man that you met wanted to date you? So you're telling me every married man you've ever met wanted to date you? Every man in your family wanted to date you? I hope not. So that's a lie. Every man I've ever met wanted to date me. I've never met a man that didn't want to date me. That sounds like a completely grandiose statement from somebody who struggles with validation starvation. Oh, and by the way, a lot of these coaches, Anwar's talking points, Aloho's talking points, they're actually setting up dark-skinned women to be validation starved. Because if you tell these women, hey, nobody likes you because you're dark-skinned. Oh, but at the same time, you have to try to fight over the few non-black women who prefer dark-skinned women. Which, by the way, how would you know upon meeting someone that they prefer you? You really don't. So they don't even tell you how you can figure out if they prefer you. They're so obsessed with preferences. But then when you see these comments, these women are just saying, oh, this person wanted to date me. That doesn't mean he prefers you. So I thought you guys are obsessed with who the preferences are. So shouldn't the conversation stick to the topic? Shouldn't you only be talking about who prefers you? So notice how they go from being mad at not being preferences, and now they're just settling for simply being desired. You know, I'm just settling for just the white man looking back at me and doing a double take. Now I'm settling for, you know, men just wanting to date me. So it went from, oh, I want to be the preference. Okay, I know I can't be that, so let me try to go somewhere else where I'm quote unquote celebrated. But then they don't tell you what the celebration is. It seems like the celebration is who's the preference, but none of these women are talking about being actual preferences of non-black men.
You're right, though. Our boundaries and standards have to be higher because a lot of men just want to sleep with us.
Pause. She's contradicting her own point. She just said one sentence before that I've never met a man that didn't want to date me. And then a couple of lines later, she says, oh, we have to have tighter boundaries and standards because a lot of the men just want to sleep with us. Sis, which one is it? Do the men want to date you? Are you the preference? Are you the most desirable woman in the world? Or do the men just want to sleep with you? So do you see how she started off in a state of psychosis and then reality kicked in for a moment?
As a dark-skinned woman, you do have to be super focused on your fitness, skin, and appearance.
Boom, psychological jackpot right there. You're too dark to have flaws. So your skin needs to be perfect, appearance needs to be perfect, fitness needs to be perfect in order for you to even be worthy of a second look. Oh, and by the way, most men will still want to just sleep with you. So it's that same talking point. You're too dark to have flaws. Light-skinned women, non-black women, they can get away with having flaws. You could have broken off edges as a light-skinned woman. You can be fat. You can be... Where have you heard that talking point? What culture gives you that talking point?
You cannot go outside slipping. That's 100% true. As an adult, I do get more attention from white and all shades of black guys. As a child, I got more attention from lighter skin or mixed men.
So then why are you watching a video that you can't relate to? Why is Aloho even in this part of the internet, seeing as she's not in the dating market at all? This is my question for these unambiguous women who claim that their dating lives are so perfect. Well, why do you need to even go to an advice channel for dates? If you're already happily married or you're already like happily desirable or whatever, then why do you even care? So she's actually revealing the real reason she left the comment. She came on here to convince herself and the other subscribers that she is desirable. She's saying, oh, basically, there's no man that has not wanted to date me ever in my life. I get attention from all shades of black men, white men, non-black men. There is no such thing as me ever having gone through someone not wanting to date me. So she's, once again, doing that male-centered thing where she equates her desirability to how many men want to date her, even though she accidentally admitted in the second sentence that most men just want to sleep with her.
And someone else said, there's a lot of gaslighting in these comments. It's very, very true. If it hasn't happened to you, then gold star, but it's true.
Yeah, of course there's gaslighting in the comments because a lot of unambiguous women struggle from what I call cognitive dissonance. So one of my theories is that most mental illnesses are actually fueled by cognitive dissonance because you're sending messages to dark-skinned black women that they're the queens and they're the blueprints and everybody wants to look like them and they're the most beautiful women in the world. But then when they go out into the world, they're suffering from colorism, texturism, featureism, and oh my God, I hate my 4C hair, and I don't have the features that are praised in the media. So you've got cognitive dissonance. So that's why the culture and the comment sections are filled with gaslighting. Because you got these leaders or these unambiguous voices, both male and female, essentially lying and saying, oh, open up your options. Open up their options to what? You just told them that they're the least desirable, right? Statistically. So if they're the least desirable, then that would mean, mathematically, that they have the least options. So you're contradicting yourself. That's why these women gaslight both themselves and MLS people.
And I find when it comes to talking about colorism, you do have a group of dark-skinned black women that will say those things never happened to me. I never experienced that. I hate when we talk about this because it's not true.
Okay, but Aloho herself would fall into this first category that she's describing because Aloho has not had the experience of colorism preventing her from getting married. She hasn't had that experience. But notice how instead of Aloho telling her audience how she met her husband, how she attained her husband, how they can get a black husband or whatever, instead of her telling her audience that, she would rather just differentiate herself from them and essentially be put on a pedestal by her own subscribers and say, oh yeah, most black men are colorists or whatever, so you have to open up your options to non-black men. Meanwhile, behind closed doors, I'm married to an unambiguous black man.
And it's very interesting because over the years doing commentary on colorism, you've seen the women, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago say, I've never experienced it. And then all of a sudden they'll come out like, you know what? I experienced it. And it's something that my pastor used to always say. He used to say, just keep on living. Just keep on living and you'll get to experience some things, okay?
Okay, so it's this talking point of hopelessness. No matter who you are, if you're dark-skinned, you're going to experience colorism, and that's that. You're just fucked socially. Your life is going to be effed up by some sort of colorist experience. And if you have not experienced colorism yet, I guarantee you will. So you're basically telling them that they're going to suffer based on their skin tone, but then have the audacity to turn around and call people self-hating when they don't want to be dark-skinned. Or when light-skinned people say, oh shit, I'm glad I'm not dark-skinned then, because I don't want to have to worry about that. So isn't that interesting? She's saying that if you're dark-skinned, you're guaranteed to suffer from colorism.
But either way, shout out to Anwar for being honest about this topic. I feel like the colorism topics, they're not popular anymore.
No, inferiority complexes are not popular anymore, because a lot of black women realize that coming and crying on the internet, nobody wants to date me, nobody likes me, she got more likes than me on Instagram, she got more likes on Tinder. A lot of unambiguous black women realize that they harmed their collective image.
No one wants to be the person that seems to be unattractive or can't find a mate, right? Nobody wants to put themselves down in that way.
Pause. Psychological jackpot right there. She just said no one wants to be the one who says they can't find a mate. No one wants to put themselves down in that way. Okay, so you think it's a put down to not find a mate? So it's a put down to be single. No one wants to be single. No one wants to say that they're single because no one met their standards, because, that's essentially a put down. Do you see the male-centeredness coming out? If you're single, there's something wrong with you. If you couldn't find somebody, if you couldn't choose better, quote unquote, then there's something wrong with you. So it's essentially a failure. It's a social failure to not be coupled up.
But the statistics do show that darker skinned black women get married 2 times less than lighter skinned black women.
Psychological jackpot right there. The standard is light skinned black women. She didn't say Asian women. She didn't say old white women. No, she's saying it's bad that dark skinned women don't get married as much as light skinned women. So it's that same talking point of dark-skinned black women have been left behind. They're socially behind. They're beneath light-skinned women in the marriage market.
And someone did make a good comment. They were like, well, none of my lighter-skinned friends are married. They're single too. And I thought about myself and my own group of friends and family. And same for me. Most of the dark-skinned black women that I'm friends with or family with, they're actually married. And my lighter-skinned friends or Latina friends, for the most part, they're not. And so I can also say, that's not true. My light-skinned friends aren't married and my dark-skinned friends are. But the exceptions don't make the rule. We have to look at overall statistics, and we also have to keep in mind that for the most part, black people as a whole don't get married in this country.
Okay, so she's saying black women, they need to pay attention to statistics, not based on their personal experience. And it's like, actually, sis, no, they don't. Dark-skinned women do not have to live their life based on statistics. I am not a statistic. I'm a human being. So it's like, why is it that she's placing this random rule on dark-skinned women? You have to look at the statistics. They get married more than you. Even if all your friends and family members and your life experiences say differently, then you are the exception. Okay, so then what's wrong with women being the exception or wanting to be the exception? That's actually what my channel is based on. It's based on the exceptions within the black community.
So we do have to look at that as well. So I asked GBT Child, and this is what she had to say.
Notice, however, since the Exoticals started using ChatGPT in our colorism videos, now you've got black empowerment content creators doing it. So I guess we're the standard of colorism content as well. But let's continue.
And so a study based in 2003, and side note, I did ask about a more recent research, and ChatGPT said yes, contemporary research from 2023 to 2025 still shows that skin tone significantly influences marriage and partner choices amongst black adults, including those over 30.
Wait a minute, but Eloho, you're encouraging your audience to date out. So why are you utilizing black research studies as being relevant? You should be using studies on non-black men and their rates of marriage. Or could it be that you don't want to use those stats because obviously it would reveal what I'm saying, which is that for non-black men, the stats are very similar to this.
So this article is still accurate today. But anyways, there was a study done, and it found that 55% of light-skinned black women were married compared to 23% of dark-skinned black women. And it said amongst black women under 30 years old, lighter-skinned individuals were married at twice the rate of their darker-skinned peers.
Aloho, you're reading the wrong study in your video. You just said a couple seconds ago that this is a 2003 study, so it's over 20 years old, and you just said, hey, I got some more contemporary studies as well. So then why are you still reading the one from 2003? Why not pull up the one from 2022 or whatever year you said and then read that one? Why are you reading a study from decades ago? And by the way, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of the screen here, it says that the rates of single, unambiguous women has actually gone up even more. So if anything, that would tell you that the divestment movement and the swirling movement and the multiculturalism movement that's happening amongst unambiguous women right now, which they will never admit, because then that would build our pedestal. But the multiculturalism movement, all this stuff they're talking about, it's not working. It's actually causing more unambiguous women to like be single, according to what's on the screen right here.
And 17% more than medium skin toned women, right? And then it also says that light skinned Black individuals tend to marry other light skinned individuals.
Oh, but according to unambiguous Black women on YouTube, the MLS men are fiending over them. So why is it not showing statistically then? I thought that they were talking about how all the light-skinned guys chase after them and that's all they attract is biracial men and they've got biracial billionaire husbands. Go to Blunt Girlie's channel right now. You will see her talking about her biracial billionaire husband and how she grew up around millionaires and billionaires. So where's that statistic? I thought that light-skinned men preferred unambiguous dark-skinned women. Could it be that maybe MLS men or other types of men prefer unambiguous women to sleep with, as that commenter said a few minutes ago? And so that's why when you're looking at actual marriage rates, since you guys put marriage on such a high pedestal, those MLS men that you're bragging about and these non-Black men that you're bragging about looking at you, I didn't know a man looking at you was something to brag about, but all those men that they've been bragging about, according to the stats, they're still not even marrying them. And then here in the left-hand corner, it says that people tend to prefer their own skin tone.
And that educationally advanced Black men gravitate toward a lighter complexion for spouses.
Wait a minute. So not only are light-skinned women their standard of dating, but they're saying that light-skinned men prefer to marry light-skinned women and that even the educated Black men prefer light-skinned women as well? Eloho, do you hear yourself? Why are you not using stats on dark-skinned Black women and positive stats about them? Why are you not using stats about how many people love dark-skinned women? Instead, all she's doing is building the light-skinned women's pedestal by saying, okay, light-skinned men like light-skinned women, Black men who are educated like light-skinned women. And then I just pulled up a stat that said that non-Black men tend to prefer women who look more ambiguous as well. So my question is, how is this supposed to help unambiguous Black women watching the video? Like, what is the point of her creating this content?
We say, why does this happen? Chat says colorism, a prejudice favoring lighter skin rooted in colonial history and perpetuated by media plays a significant role.
Eloho, you're overlooking an important point here. It says right there that colorism is a prejudice favoring lighter skin rooted in colonial history and perpetuated by media. What culture has been known to be colonizers? What culture owns the media? Is it light-skinned people? Is it unambiguous Black people? Or is it the non-Black people that you guys are running to date right now? Well, not you, Eloho, because of course, you're already married to an unambiguous man. But the subscribers, they're running to these non-Black colonizer people. I mean, according to ChatGPT, it says that it's rooted in a colonial history. So how is the solution to colorism running to the cultures of the actual colonizer? So dating descendants of colonizers is apparently the solution.
Structural factors like the shortage of marriageable Black men due to incarceration, education, etc., means those men exercise more choice.
Pause. It literally says there's a shortage of marriageable Black men and that men who are educated, they have more choice, aka more options, because those men themselves are considered more rare. Eloho, kind of like the Nigerian guy that you married, he would be considered one of those rare Black men. I'm assuming he's educated, right? So he'd be considered one of those rare Black men. The fact that Eloho and her subscribers are even paying attention to who the educated Black men choose, that tells me that they don't actually think that all Black men are dusty. They only think a Black man is dusty if he doesn't date them. Because you got women being looked up to as role models in a sense, like Eloho, who's married to an educated Black man. I don't see her subscribers saying, hey, Eloho, your husband's dusty. I don't see her subscribers saying that. Okay, so ChatGPT is actually telling you something very important. He's saying that the rare black men that actually have things going for themselves, that they're not choosing the unambiguous women and that they have more options. So, you know, the options that the unambiguous women don't have, according to you guys' own talking points, you're admitting that you guys want these educated black men, and that the educated black men, they're choosing not to go with the women who have no options and no desirability.
Often preferring lighter skin tone. This is why we call them preferences.
And another psychological jackpot right there, where Eloho agreed with my talking point that them calling us preferences was a male-centered talking point. They called us preferences because they were admitting that they believe that men prefer us over them. So that's why they were calling us that. But then, of course, if we call ourselves preferences or exoticals or whatever, then they're saying it like, oh, well, you only like your proximity to non-blackness. No, you think that society likes our proximity to non-blackness, and that's why you're calling us preferences.
Okay, contextual data. To understand these findings better, consider broader black marriage trends in the U.S. Only about 30 to 33% of black adults are currently married, well below overall U.S. marriage rate of 48%.
And that stat right there explains why Eloho came into her YouTube video flexing and making it known by announcing that, hey, just so you guys know, I am married. You know, that tells you guys why she came in and said that, because she knows how rare it is for black people, especially black men, especially unambiguous black men, especially unambiguous educated black men, to get married, and how rare it is, supposedly, for them to marry a dark-skinned black woman like herself. So do you see why she came in at the beginning with that talking point of, oh, I'm not like other blacks. I'm not like other dark-skinned black women who can't attract an unambiguous black husband. So I just want to let you guys know, I'm not in the dating market. She even told you how long she had been married. Nobody asked her any of that. She started off the video by saying, oh, just so you know, I'm married. And, you know, she has videos on her channel talking about it. She's like, just so you know, I'm married. I've been married for 3 years. So now she's revealing why she said that. It's because the data shows that a very small percentage of black adults are actually married.
So we can't say that colorism exists and deny what Anwar is saying and deny the statistics, right? So yes, it's nice that men find you attractive and men love your skin tone and you have no problems dating and you got married, you know, those things are great. But when we're talking about black, dark-skinned women as a whole, we have to have honest conversations to get our sisters, you know, in the right relationships.
No. How is creating a colorism YouTube video going to get your subscribers in the right relationships, Eloho? You're not even in an interracial relationship. You're in a relationship with an unambiguous dark-skinned black man.
And married if they choose so. And so shout out to Anwar because he's getting the girls engaged.
Anwar is not getting the girls engaged, according to the statistics that you have up on the screen right now. It says only 30 to 33% of black adults are currently married. Anwar did not come in and change that. In fact, Anwar's star student is a woman who is not dark-skinned. So when you're saying Anwar is getting the girls engaged, are you talking about the light-skinned girls? Are you talking about biracial girls? Are you talking about mixed-race girls? Because I have yet to see somebody who suffers from colorism, texturism, featureism, anti-blackness, and misogynoir on Anwar's channel talking about how she got engaged or married.
Getting the girls down the aisle, hopefully with the right man.
Also, she is externalizing black women's results. She's saying Anwar is the almighty alpha and omega who will get you down the aisle. You know, he is your fairy godmother. You're just the black Cinderella. You're Brandy in this situation. You are the black Cinderella, and the almighty god Anwar is going to get you down the aisle. So that's an external locus of control. Do you see how they actually perpetuate codependency within their own phenotype group? So you got one dark-skinned black woman, content creator, telling dark-skinned black subscribers that you should rely on this dark-skinned black man to get you down the aisle. Do you see the codependency there? It's male-centered. It's actually black male-centered because they're relying on a black guy to tell them how to date white guys or to tell them how to date other guys or any guy.
Okay, because that is very important. But as I always say, man's rejection is literally God's protection. Like literally, if
Whoa, whoa, whoa. If man's rejection is God's protection, you should be celebrating this statistic that 70% of unambiguous women are unmarried. You should be happy. You should be saying, yay, God protected them from all these dusty men. God protected them from these dusty black men. But I didn't see you doing that, Aloho. So which one is it? Are they being protected or are they behind because, light-skinned women are married at twice the rates? Should they seek after marriage or not? Which one is it?
If you don't see my skin tone as anything other than sun-kissed, divinely beautiful, then God is protecting me from you because you're toxic.
Pause it again. She said, if you don't see my skin tone as sun-kissed and divinely beautiful, then God's protecting me from you because you are toxic. Okay, so if I, as a light-skinned woman, were to say, if a man doesn't see me and my skin tone as divine and sun-kissed, then you're toxic. You would call me a colorist. You would say I'm arrogant. You would say I'm making my skin tone into my personality, right? So if you don't worship my skin tone, she literally used the word divine. So if you don't worship my skin, if you don't view my skin as supernatural, then you are toxic. So why is it that dark-skinned women are allowed to say this, but if a light-skinned or a white person were to say this, then, of course, we would be colorist.
Like, you're highly toxic if you don't see this and don't see divinity, period. But overall, this is a good starting point, but it's not meant to make you feel down or feel bad, like, oh, I might never get married because the statistics say such and such, right? That's not the point of this. The point of this is to know the facts, know the information, and move accordingly.
But Eloho didn't tell her audience how to move accordingly. Eloho couldn't even follow her own advice because she herself married an unambiguous dark-skinned black man with a Nigerian background.
Like, okay, this is the statistics. Majority of black men are colorists and texturists and blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm going to open my dating pool.
Open your dating pool to what? Because according to the data that I just pulled up via ChatGPT, because you were using ChatGPT, so I'm going to use ChatGPT. According to the data that I just pulled up, non-black men are the least likely to express interest in black women compared to other racial groups, and especially dark-skinned women. According to ChatGPT, the same source that you use for your video. So what do you mean open their options up? Open their options up to who?
I'm going to look out for red flags. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to take care of myself.
Dark-skinned women don't get to take their time, according to Anwar, who Aloho just supported. Anwar has a whole title that says that you need to be engaged in 1 year. So take their time where? Which one is it? Are dark-skinned women taking their time or not? Do you see how the black empowerment space, they're constantly promoting cognitive dissonance? This is why I'm so glad that dark-skinned Exoticals have their own separate channels. I'm so glad that we have our own separate space over here because the amount of cognitive dissonance is insane.
I want what wants me. I'm attracted to what's attracted to me. And obviously we still have boundaries and we can still have preferences like the rest of the world. But just understand, like that woman commented and said, like, I used to prefer A and I realized A wasn't checking for me.
But Aloho, that commenter was wrong according to your existence because you're with an unambiguous dark-skinned black man. He chose an unambiguous dark-skinned black woman. So instead of correcting that commenter, Aloho is making herself look like, hey, I'm the special snowflake unambiguous woman who is preferred by unambiguous educated men. And so that's what gives me the authority to give you guys advice as my subscribers.
So yeah, you have to be able to say, okay, I typically like this, but let me go over here. And it's funny because I mentioned this in my last video where I was doing a review of Pop the Balloon or Find Love episode. And I saw a lot of single women saying like, oh, I prefer a man that dresses like this, or I prefer a man that wears socks with his shoes, and all of these like petty asinine reasons why they wouldn't date a guy. And it's like, girl.
Okay, so now she's telling women to lower their standards because they're dark-skinned. So she said that women were commenting saying they prefer a man who wears socks with his shoes, which I agree with, because if you're constantly sweating and the insides of your shoes are drenched, you're more likely to get foot fungus. So I prefer to date a man who doesn't have foot fungus. I didn't know that you couldn't have that as a standard. So now she's saying give up your preferences, give up your standards, lower your standards or change them, because that's better than being alone. Notice how being single is never an option. Being single is never the prize. Being single is never a goal. Being single is not celebrated in the unambiguous community online. Dating a man with foot fungus is a better choice.
So you gonna let socks stop you from being with a great man? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, so she's revealing that wanting your man to dress well, that's too unrealistic of a standard. Wanting a man who wears socks, that is unrealistic. You're dark. So, you better settle for the man who has foot fungus and bunions and corns.
And it's literally why you're on a dating show. Like, just saying. As my mom always says, the truth is bitter, okay? And so sometimes you need the bitter truth to get your shit together and to act accordingly, okay? Y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Do you agree with Anwar's advice? What do you think about him saying dark women should be checking for pale men? Now, that's an old saying that opposites attract. And I personally don't think that you have to date someone who's opposite of your skin tone. The point is just that you should be broadening your horizons and you shouldn't write off the pale people, right?
So they're telling their subscribers to date lighter people and essentially create lighter babies, while simultaneously pretending like light-skinned women are mediocre and like not pretty.
In my personal experience, I am one of the people who has dated like the full scope Latino, Black, American, African, Caribbean, white.
So Aloho is revealing her preference. She's saying that she dated men from all over the world, all different phenotypes, and that she still chose her unambiguous monoracial dark-skinned Black man. Isn't that interesting? So she spent all this time, the whole video, she spent that time talking about how unambiguous men are colorists, but then at the end she admits that she dated every other phenotype and that she still ended up choosing an unambiguous man. So this is why I say I don't believe them when they say we're expanding our options or like we're dating out and we're leveling up and that's why Exoticals are mad. No, you're doing that because you're either validation starved, or maybe you happen to pedestalize non-blackness, you're non-black male centered, or you're doing it as a form of triangulation, you're doing it as a way to compete with MLS women, or you're doing it so that you can triangulate with unambiguous men and say, ha ha, look at me, this white man wants to fuck me, so now you should too. But then in the end, if an unambiguous dark-skinned Black man gives you attention, you're going to run to him and end up marrying him anyway. Do you see all this drama? Do you see all the chaos and drama that they have to create before they can admit that they simply like and prefer unambiguous dark-skinned Black men? And the reason I wanted to make this video is to point out how harmful it is for darker-skinned mixed-race women to be watching and, pretending to relate to these inferiority complexes or participating in the inferiority complexes that come from the unambiguous community. Because they offer no solutions. They don't give any strategies for how they succeeded. It's always some random person where it's either she's anonymous or her husband is anonymous. You can't ask questions about her relationship, but then she markets her channel as if she's some sort of authority. Or they will point you to whoever the Black man is, whoever the popular Black man of the hour is in the dating field. First it was Kevin Samuels and now it's Anwar. They point you to another person, so another male, in order for you to decide your own standards. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.